Good evening, this is Scotty Sanders. Welcome to my Facebook Live. Thanks for joining me. So this is, I'm looking at the number now, it's hard to believe, but this is episode 56. And if you've not checked this out before, my name is Scotty Sanders. I'm an international leadership consultant, and what I love to get to do is help encourage others to live, lead, and to finish well. Something that's my purpose in life and something I'm deeply passionate about. And the reason I do these Facebook Lives is to do that very thing. And so a little bit of the theme or the thread that runs through all of my talks is helping people to lead themselves well. Because I believe when you lead yourself well, it gives you the opportunity to lead others. So, and to me, that's one of the greatest compliments to you, and one of the greatest honors is when you get to lead other people. And I don't say that in a bragging way, but really in a humbling way, that you've been given the blessing to do that. And it's a way that you can serve other people. So it's so important. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about 5 practices to nurture joy. Okay, and joy is something that's really different than happiness. All right, happiness tends to be a little bit more fleeting. It can come and go depending on your circumstances. I think about joy being something really much deeper than that. Even in the midst of hard circumstances, there can still be joy. So I'm going to share with you 5 practices that I've done over the years that nurtures joy in me. And they're real for me. It's things that I have to remind myself of. I'm lacking joy. Sometimes I'll go back and I'll look into, well, what am I not practicing? What am I missing here? And one of the foundational things I want you to think about as it relates to the whole thing about joy is having healthy relationships. If you have a bunch of unhealthy relationships, it's going to be a lot more difficult to have joy in your life. Because I somewhat refer to those that are somewhat, unhealthy for you would be people that are joy suckers. They tend to suck the joy out of your life. So think about people. Do you have healthy relationships? People that do bring you joy versus people that suck the joy out of your life. And so don't refer to your spouse as a joy sucker. That would be bad. So let me just give you some advice there. Don't do that. And even with your kids, you don't want to do that. But just examine your relationships, because it's hard to have joy if there's not good, healthy relationships. So here are the 5 practices. So number 1, and I think this is so important, is keep things in perspective. Keep things in perspective. And so I use I call it a mental game for me, that when things happen that may be a challenge or difficult or disappointing, I'll play this little mental game. I call it a perspective stake that I put in the ground many years ago. And this is what I mean by that. I think this is going back to maybe 1992, so many years ago. I remember meeting with a cardiologist. My wife was having a lot of health issues at that time and a lot of heart issues. And so we were meeting with a cardiologist. They had done many, many tests, and the conclusion that this cardiologist came up with, and we're meeting with him, and he says, well, listen, here's the deal. Cindy has cardiomyopathy. And I didn't even know what cardiomyopathy was at the time. I can tell you that was pre-internet. So I spent an afternoon in the library to study up and learn more. But basically, when he said that to me, I was like, okay, well, what do we do for cardiomyopathy? And I'll never forget these words as long as I live, unless my memory slips me. But I remember him saying, well, basically, Cindy will need to have a heart transplant or she will die from this. And I remember anything that was bothering me up until that point really didn't matter anymore. The little difficulties or the little challenges. And so today, when something comes up, I'll pull out my perspective stake and put that in the ground, because there probably wouldn't be much worse news than that, hearing that my wife needed a heart transplant. Now, fortunately, we went to St. Luke's in Houston, met with some great doctors there, and it ended up being something called cardioneurogenic reflex syncope syndrome, which sounds worse, but is actually a lot better. It required some medicine and some change of life kind of things. And she's had several heart procedures over the years and doing pretty well with that. But she didn't have to have a heart transplant, and she's still alive, because last week we celebrated our 40th wedding anniversary. So, but Keep things in perspective will help you to nurture joy. If you let things that come up and all of a sudden you lose your joy when something bad happens. So keep a good perspective. Here's a second one. Discover something to laugh about every day. All right. Now, a lot of people think of me being the serious type, and I really am, but I really have a sense of humor. Sometimes maybe it's hard to see that. One of the things I do to laugh every day, I may watch an old episode of Andy Griffith. You know, I've got 4 granddaughters, so that helps me in the laugh department. But find things to lighten up about, that you can laugh about. Laugh about yourself. You know, having granddaughters when they were young, you know, I remember one of my granddaughter, Jessa, saying to me, "Papa, you don't have any hair." And that was a surprise to me. And I think about that, and I laugh today thinking about the words that come out of my granddaughter's mouth, that just innocent asking certain things or commenting about things. So find things to laugh about, because it reduces stress hormones. It reduces stress. We're already in a stressful world, so find things that can reduce stress. Laughter will do that, and it will nurture joy. It also lowers your blood pressure and produces a general sense of well-being. So find something to laugh about every day. And maybe when you watch my Facebook, I can do some goofy stuff and you can laugh at me. And if that helps you, I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, I'll laugh with you. All right. So the third one is this: look forward to something every week. We need to have something that we're excited about. You know, work can somewhat be, mundane or boring for us at times. And I'm very, very blessed. I love what I get to do, and I never have this sense of, I can't wait till my vacation. Although my wife and I will be celebrating our 40th wedding anniversary on a little getaway to Cancun coming up. I'm looking forward to that, but I don't live for a vacation, or I don't live for the weekend. So I think you need to be careful about that. Find something you love to do at work, and then every day you can have joy, but look forward to doing something every week. It could be taking your spouse on a date. It could be spending time with your kids. It could be doing a weekend getaway. For me, it could be doing something with my kids or my grandkids. And Cindy and I, my wife, we try to do something almost every day together. We had lunch today. Tonight we ate dinner while we watched a series that we've been watching for a while. We like to hang out together. That nurtures joy to me. So for me, I almost find something I enjoy doing every day that I look forward to. So that's a third one. And then a fourth one is to develop a hobby. Now, I'll be honest with you. I don't have the typical hobby of someone that likes to golf, fish, or hunt, or snow ski. And I know a lot of people do and love that. I think that's fantastic. For me, my hobbies are a little bit odd, and it doesn't take a lot of time, and it doesn't really cost any money. One of my hobbies is the New Orleans Saints football team, so I follow them pretty close. I'm somewhat of a fanatic of theirs. I've been keeping up with them for many, many years. So I went to the NFC Championship game and watched them get beat by the Los Angeles Rams. So that was feeding into my hobby. I'm also a big hobby of the NFL drafts. I'll study, and we'll have a draft party at my home. A few guys will come over. Been doing that for years, but that's something I prepare for 3 or 4 months leading up to the draft. And fantasy football, I do it with a bunch of my family members. I've got nephews and brother-in-laws, and my son will do fantasy football. That's a hobby. So those are some examples. In fact, something we started with one of the teams I'm a part of, we do the March Madness NCAA men's basketball bracket. So we're doing that right now. It's something we do every year. So that's becoming more of a hobby. So find a hobby. That is something you can practice to nurture joy. And then number 5, and this one I may meddle just a little bit, but take care of your body. Our emotional and our spiritual being operates from our physical being. So if we're not physically taking care of ourselves, getting enough sleep, eating well, and exercising, then emotionally, we're not going to be in the best shape. And even spiritually, we're not going to be in the best shape, because that is our base of operation. So when you practice that, it nurtures joy, because you're being a good steward of your body. So let me encourage you in that way. So those are 5 practices for me that nurtures joy. And I would encourage you, try these out, see if they don't help you. And here's the thing, we need to pursue joy. It just doesn't happen on its own, but it's something we need to pursue on a daily basis. Well, I hope this has been helpful to you, and I would encourage you to share this with someone else. And just by hitting the share button, that goes out to all of your friends on Facebook. And I certainly would appreciate that very much. But listen, I hope you will practice these 5 ways of pursuing joy this week. And I hope you have a great week. You know, Mondays are always important to get off to a great start, to get a lot done, and it makes the rest of the week go well. Well, listen, I plan to keep leading well this week. I hope you'll do the same till we get back together next time. Take care.